Okay. Give me a mic check, would you, Aaron?
Check, chickadee, chickadee, check, check, check. 1, 2, 3.
You're noted for your mic check. You've got the patent to that checkity check. Now the other reporters are starting to do that. Have you noticed that?
No,
well,
do
you're
they?
never out there when they do
No.
it. Yeah, so
Do they mess around like that?
legendary. Yeah. Okay. This is Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, joined today by sports legend Aaron Hancock. I say legend. Aaron, you've been doing this 25 years and just kind of under the radar, you know, and I'm thinking, well, I see the guy on TV. I need to get him for this podcast. So thanks so much for coming in here. You're a hard guy to catch.
Hey, no problem. We just keep busy around here, you know.
You keep busy around here. I mean, you put more into a weekend sportscast than anybody else I know. How many things will you do in a weekend? Like, what's your limit?
Oh, it depends. Maybe 5, 6 games, something like that. It just kind of depends on what's going on, how close they are to each other.
And you can ignore the camera up there. It's just that'll be for the YouTube version of it.
Okay.
So
I didn't know if you wanted to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm awful to look at too. So you got a choice. You can look into the void or look at me, either one. But don't worry about that. So, well, tell me about you. So you're a local guy, of course, and we got a lot of locals here at 14, in addition to many, come and goers. So kind of take us through your growing up and how you got in the business.
Well, just grew up around here, went to Harrison High School, and as a kid, used to kind of mess around doing play-by-play, pretending I was doing it anyway. Always listen to the sports shows and, Sports Center when that became a big thing. And even CNN, when they had their little headline sports, they had some great guys on there.
Yeah.
And then over the years, as I went through high school and I started doing some play-by-play, actually during high school basketball games, I met up with a former teacher, Mr. Brandt, Jeff Brandt.
Okay.
And he was the photography teacher there. I didn't actually take his class, but he told me that, hey, I'll help you out with doing some of this play-by-play because I videotape the basketball games for the coaches. So he's like, I'll just plug in a mic. You come on up here and sit on the play-by-play spot up there where all the media sits, and you can just do the game for fun. So I did that for practice, and then eventually decided when I went to IU that I was going to go to school for sports communications and broadcasting.
Okay, so you did that at Harrison High School, and what was the learning curve for you? Like, was it pretty rough the first few times out? Because you've been doing it prior to that, right? So you kind of knew the patter, right? I mean, where do you learn the, all the sayings and stuff that you do to fill in a sportscast like that, or a play-by-play?
It was. I just kind of winged it because I didn't really, I listened to TV and that's about all I knew was like listen to guys on TV on the NFL and, high school NBA games, MLB, whatever.
Right.
And so I just kind of winged it and just came up with my own thing. And it was probably god awful if you go back and listen to it, but it was just something to kind of do and see if I liked it or not.
Yeah. Did you play any sports?
I played baseball.
Okay.
So
you've been on the field, but then you really like being behind that microphone too. What position did you play in baseball?
Well, outfield and a little bit of second base, and then I played softball around here from the time I graduated college for about 20, 25 years, and actually was a pitcher most of the time.
Okay.
So I like the having the real reflexes to snag those hot shots coming back.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So you go to IU, and so did you go through, was it the media school then, or was it still telecom, or what was it at that point?
It was a little bit of everything. It was technically, our major was in the hyper building, health, physical education, and recreation, but we had a lot of classes in telecommunications and stuff. So
okay. So then you come back home to Evansville, and was this your first job market to work here in Evansville, or did you work someplace else and come here?
No, this was it. I actually started in radio at a station up in Mount Carmel, 100.5, and they were doing Mount Carmel games, but then they wanted to start doing Gibson Southern High School games. And so they were like, well, we need somebody. And actually the guy that was doing sports there at the time was Rob Blackman. He is currently the Purdue football and basketball play-by-play announcer. Took him a while to get to that point. He was working for Purdue Sports, though, for quite a while. Just ran into him this past weekend at the IHSAA Baseball State Championships. I see him every once in a while. He does play-by-play for them. But anyway, he was there working for that station and kind of helped me and grew me a little bit. And then I started doing the Gibson Southern games, football and basketball, while he did the Mount Carmel games. And then decided, I think I want to try TV because that's what I went to school for.
Yeah.
So
there's a big difference, though, between calling a game, like play-by-play, the preparation and everything, and then doing a sportscast where you're going to, maybe you're going to cover girls volleyball and then run over here and catch the soccer game, and, we're going to get some highlights of, fall football, whatever it is. There's a whole, grab bag on any given day. So how did you adapt to that? And then where did you start on television?
Well, I ended up getting a job actually at the previous version of Channel 44 News before they stopped doing it for a while, with back when like Beth Ann Patmeathis and Adam Alexander, people like that, Angie Humphrey, they all worked there.
Yeah.
And then stopped working there and went to 25 in middle of 2000.
Yeah. Were you there when it shut down the first time?
I actually got out of there about 3 months before.
You had to jump off before it was, because it went down. That's another whole story
Yes.
About, the coming and going of 44 over the many years. But then you go to 25. And so who are you working with over there?
Well, actually, for a while, I was just a photographer doing news, but I also did sports. Lance Wilkerson was a sports director at that time, and Chris Goodman, who eventually worked here, was a sports reporter over there. And so those guys kind of showed me a little bit of the ropes, just as far as shooting sports. I wasn't doing any on the air yet.
Yeah.
I was doing news and sports shooting. So it was a good thing as I look back on it, because I learned a lot from Lewis Cheney, who was the photographer there, and Leonard Judd, who was the chief photographer.
Legendary Leonard Judd.
Yes.
You work with some of the titans in the business here. That's funny that you've been around this long. You don't look old enough to have worked with those people.
That's
I mean,
good.
they're legend, man. But anyway, so you kind of get your foundation there. And then when did you first start working on camera then? Like anchoring and
It
doing
was
that?
probably about 2008, 2009. I decided, okay, now I've been doing this for a long time. Let me get into sports. And, I kind of had to force my way into it a little bit more. But Lance was like, hey, let's start doing some packages and just go from there. And so that's what I did. I just doing some sports packages. Wasn't really on camera yet. Started writing them and voicing them and all that. And then eventually started practicing anchoring. And then by around 2009, somewhere in 09 to 010, somewhere in that range, I don't remember exactly, I started filling in anchoring.
Yeah, and here you're kind of the de facto sports director because you've been here the longest. To use an expression where all the bodies are bare, but all the background, all the history and everything. So as we have people that come and go, I guess you have to kind of bring them up to speed on what's going on in the sports place. Is that correct? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Or do you do that? Maybe you don't. I don't know.
It's pretty much it. I mean, I just try to be like, hey, I'm here. Just ask me questions. I'll let you know what's going on. Here's the history. And, a lot of times they'll be like, hey, do you have this number? Do you have this guy's number? What do you know about the history of modern day baseball or North baseball?
But you know this stuff. I mean, you got like the encyclopedia brain. So where does all that stuff live up there? Stats and history and, just the color basically of sports.
Yeah, it's just, I guess when you're here and you've been doing it this long, you just remember a lot of it, and it's just there, and you can go back to it. Now, of course, I'm not a total genius. I do have to look it up on IHSAA or
that's all right.
KHSAA,
yeah, sure.
Because there's some of it can run together over the years.
But what's the thing that excites you most when you come in here each day? Of course, you kind of know what you're going to walk into. It's not like news where breaking news and that. I mean, I guess sports, we have breaking sports stories too, but generally, okay, today's going to be like a Friday, in the fall, you're going to be covering football and running around and everything. So how do you kind of gear yourself up for that?
Well, you just know, like, okay, get into football season. All right, we kind of have a weekly way of doing it. Like, all right, Friday is going to be the games, but obviously on Monday, even Sunday, start prepping for it. Start planning on, which stories we're going to go cover, which teams are doing good, who do we want to go visit, check in with. Yeah. And then try to also catch up with, the volleyballs and the soccers going on. And then you just take it season by season and just look at it.
Yeah, I've seen you work in football games before. I've been a spectator at a football game or two, and I see you running around on the sideline. I mean, you're running as much as the guys on the field. It's pretty strenuous, too, because you got to get in and get out, right? I mean, I guess what's the best scenario? You walk in, you get a field goal, a touchdown, you can leave, And
Yeah.
then there's those games where nobody scores till the fourth quarter. So what do you do then?
Well, you're just hoping, hey, can we use some defensive plays? Can you guys give me an interception or a fumble or anything? Sometimes you go up to the player, if you know them a little bit, joke around with them. Hey, can you throw a touchdown? How about throwing it on this side of the field right to me? If you can you pull that off? But coaches, you're not going to be able to get away with asking them that.
No.
But, you just have to, hope that you can pull teeth sometimes. Pretend you're a dentist or orthodontist. Pull some teeth. Like, come on, give me something. Give me a 10, 20-yard run even. But like you said, if you can just walk in and boom, 2 or 3 or 4 touchdowns happen, you're gold.
Yeah, because you could tell, because the sports guys will be down there shooting, and women too. They'll be shooting, and boy, as soon as that first touchdown goes, wham, they're out the door because they got to shoot like 2 or 3 other games, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever gone and nothing happened?
Yeah.
Well, then what do you do?
Then it's
What do you put on?
You're just trying to find the longest run, the longest pass play. Maybe there was a sack. Maybe you're just getting crowd shots and throwing cutaways on there. Like, hey, look at these kids. And by the way, there was a game going on. Nothing was happening, but it was an exciting place to be.
That must be stressful, though, because you got to come back with something. I mean, that would be tough,
Yeah.
Especially week after week. So what's the biggest spread you've done? Like you've shot a game in Jasper, and then you had to go to like Muhlenberg County and over to Mount Carmel, or probably not that much in one night, but you guys have covered some acreage. How far do you think you've gone?
Well, I mean, there's probably been some nights, and I try to do it by start times. If there's a 6 o'clock Central game, maybe 2 Eastern time zone teams are playing each other, like Forest Park and Pike Central. Hey, they kick at 6 o'clock. All right, I'll start there. Then swing over to Jasper. Maybe they're starting at 6:30. Come down to Perry Central. Maybe they're starting at 7. But there's nights where you can put 150, 200 miles on it, depending on where you want to go. Maybe you're going to Muhlenberg County, swing over through Ohio County or Hopkins Central, and then come back up, catch Madison on the way back.
Oh, brother. And so much. And then you've got to turn it around, have it ready. Of course, the sports show on Friday night for football and basketball, too, it's extended. So you got to have stuff, right? I mean, how do you get all that put together? Is somebody driving you and you're editing in the car, or are you a solo act?
It'd be nice if we had a personal assistant on
See,
Friday
this is
nights.
how isolated I am. I sit back there in the weather office, no clue what people are actually doing out there. I mean, I have an idea, but what do you think has been the biggest change in sports casting, what you do, since you started in the business doing this?
Well, the cameras, for one. They used to, at least we here at 14, and when I was at 25, had the cameras that you put on your shoulder. And now when I got here, they still had those. But now I'd say probably 8 to 10 years ago, we got these smaller cameras that are basically handheld, and you have to just hold them out in front of you, and you can either rest them against your body or just hold them out. And they've probably lost 10 to 15 pounds, which has been nice.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the format on the way you record things. I mean, when I started, it was beta tapes.
Tape, yeah. So you're tape to tape. It's nonlinear editing. So you got to go in, run the tapes back and forth. Time consuming, nerve-wracking. And now everything's either in the cloud or on a card, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just digital.
You get these little the cards
SD
have
card.
even gotten
Yeah.
smaller. They were a little like rectangular, and now they're little SD cards. You can see them at the store. You just plop them in the camera, put them in your computer. There's your clips. And instead of hunting through tape and scrolling back and forth and running and probably wearing the tape out over time, it's like, whoop, there's the clip right there. There's the clip right there.
Yeah.
And you put it in there.
And you got it in your head, so I guess when you come back in here, you just bang, 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 get the stuff you need, and then you're running out. You're always running. I never just see you saunter out, into the studio to do your sportscast. It's always down to the last second,
Yeah.
I guess that's exciting for you, right? You would have lost all your hair by now.
It's not always planned, but, and sometimes it's just let's run to the studio and get fired up for the sportscast.
Yeah.
But
what's it like having your family here in town? I mean, I guess they're your biggest fans. They watch you every night, or how does that work?
a lot of times.
I mean, your extended family. I know your wife and your son are obviously here in town, but has that kind of worn off now, or is it still a thing?
A little bit. If they know that somebody's going to be on there they want to see, like we have a nephew, AJ Foster from Lagodi. He plays basketball for Lagodi, and this will be his senior year, but since he's been on the varsity team the last few years, they're like, hey, anytime Lagode's playing Wood Memorial or Southridge or somebody in our area and you happen to be there, see if you can get him in there. I'm like, well, if he can score a basket or make a good assist, and then, hey, they're all up in Lagode watching the live stream. Like, let's see what AJ was doing. Let's see what the highlights look like.
I remember, of course, sports, everybody knows you for sports, but you're also kind of a utility guy, right? I mean, you can do anything because I know, like during the tornado back in December 10th of 2021, you were down there in the middle of the night in Bremen shooting some of the first stories that we had. You later packaged and shot some things down there. So you said you were a photographer earlier in your career, so I guess it comes back, right? You'd rather be shooting a basketball game, but duty calls. What was that like for you? Was that the worst thing you'd ever been sent to or had to do, the tornado?
It was up there. I mean, I've unfortunately seen a lot of tornado damages throughout the years from different cities, Fairfield and Providence, and here in Evansville back when it went through Eastbrook.
Sure.
And then obviously down in Bremen, and then ended up at Dawson Springs that week as well. I mean, it was hard to see, and that's where I fall back on all the stuff I learned over at 25 from Leonard and Lewis, the news skills and just, how to frame video, how to make it look good, the sequencing of editing, and then, the falling back on the knowledge of here's, how you're going to approach a family or somebody that's dealing with this sort of loss. And it's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah. On a happier note, when they send you out, like to state playoffs or whatever, and you're in Indy or Lexington or wherever it happens, Louisville, wherever it happens to be, by yourself, and you've got to fill that live shot for the 6 o'clock news, are you just standing there with a tripod? You got the camera turned on yourself, you're listening, waiting for the cue, and then it's all on you, right? Is that a good feeling, or do you feel like it'd be nice to have a little help once in a while?
Well, I've kind of just gotten used to it because that's the way it is anymore these days. It's kind of everybody's a one-man gang, but it's fun, knowing that there's a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress, but it's like, okay, it's sports. I know what I'm talking about. As long as I kind of have an idea in my head of what I'm going to say, I can just roll with it and go from there.
Yeah. You, of course, grew up watching Mike Blake, I'm sure, and have worked with him here in the building. What is his role in the sports department? Is he like emeritus? He still chimes in with various tidbits from time to time, I'm sure. What's that been like for you, having watched him on the air, worked with him, and, now he's still here?
Yeah, it's really cool to know, like, he's a living legend like you in the building, and we can come and just draw information from and get feedback from. And he shows up at the Aces games, of course, a lot. He's a big fan, and, he'll come by and say, hey, guys, great job on the game coverage. And, and he'll just tell you what's going on. And he'll say, hey, I've got this little tidbit about Coach Ragland or Coach, Marty Simmons from back in the day. Or he's always a great source of information. Either way you want to use him.
And the guy's always working, too, especially in the sports realm. He always seems to know these things. So you've worked with, I don't know how many people have come through since you've been with us. What's that like? Each time we get a new sports person in for a couple of years, which is typical, 2 or 3 years, and you kind of get used to them, and then they move on. Do you feel like you're somewhat of a teacher for them, or do you just kind of sit back?
A little bit of both. I try to let them find their own way and come up with their own style, because I don't want it to be like, okay, you've got to do it just like me, because ultimately they're going to go on to bigger and better or whatever they're going to do, whether it's in this career or something different or whatever. They're going to have to figure out a way to learn how to run their business, run this business, run their editing, how they want to speak on the air, how they want to write a story. But I'll obviously give them feedback. Max is always, hey, what do you think about this story? And I'll watch it and let him know. And I'm like, ultimately, Max, you got to write it how you are comfortable writing and how you want to tell the story.
You've decided to stay, like me. I mean, I've decided to stay, too. I just never really was interested in working in any other market. Are you the same way? What is it about here that we've done that, do you think?
I had thought about it for a while. I thought, I'm going to do what everybody else does. I'm going to move on and check out a different market and try to make more money and all that somewhere else and go to a big city. But then as I started doing sports longer and longer, it was like, hey, this is kind of nice to know exactly where to go, where everything is, and know the history of all the colleges and high schools. And, people can come in and that are, new every few years, and they'll be like, "Oh, so what is this? Reits or rights?" I'm like, No, rights.
yeah,
You don't want the West Side coming in here and raiding the place. You better say rights in modern day and get it right. It's fun.
They all make that mistake once, though, don't they? Almost without exception. I think every sportscaster I can think of who's come and gone has started with reads. Yeah, and that's fingernails on a blackboard in there. Well, I'm glad you stayed, Aaron. It makes me feel good. We're kind of the standard bearers here. We're the ones that are going to be here, like the cockroaches on Channel 14. I really appreciate your time. I know you're getting ready to run out the door. The day that we're shooting this or recording this, we got the Pacers in Game 7 tonight.
Yeah.
So that's going to be exciting, and I know you'll be glued to the thing. We'll have to find out. Well, we won't know by the time this is broadcast or run. We will already know that. But thanks for coming out here to Inside Look.
Yep.
If you want to hear any of the Inside Look podcasts, you can do that wherever you listen to your podcasts, or you can watch on the 14 News YouTube channel. Thanks for joining Inside Look.